Um, I'm going to talk about fillets. Now, fillets is actually fillet stroke chamfer. It's considered the same. But on a normal setup, you will see at the top here, you have fillet. You will also have modify. Unfortunately, it's over the thing again. It's at the top there. So you have fillet and chamfer are considered the same. So I'm going to cover fillets first of all, and then I'll go on chamfer, which is very, very similar. And you'll notice it has a shortcut, which is F. Okay, so if we do fillet, the first thing that you'll see is there are different types of fillet. So we have a fillet, a rule fillet, and a full round fillet. Prior to studying up on this, I just thought there was fillet. So it just shows that. The other two, I'd never even bothered clicking the down arrow to see what else there was. So fillet, nice and simple. It's round edges based on selected edges, faces, or features. So what we can do is, God, everything's all in the way today. So if we type of fillet, the first thing it asks you for, even though it doesn't technically ask you for it because it's going into variable and then edges select, the first thing it'll ask you for is you can select an edge to fillet. So if we select that edge, it brings up now a lot of other options that you can have, but the majority of times you'll just type into, sorry, it's me playing with it earlier, pretend you didn't see that. So normally you just press a line and you'll enter a number and that will create a fillet on that corner, okay, which is just a roundy bit on the end. So we can edit that fillet. And one of the options that we've got here, as you can see at the moment, it says one edge, or I can add a selection set. But if I want to add an edge, let's say I selected that one and I want to select that inside edge there as well. If I hold the command, or that will be control for people that insist on using PCs, then what it'll actually do is it will do a round on the outside and on the inside. But there is an obvious problem with that. If you wanted it to look nice and neat, basically what it's doing is it's doing 2 mil on the inside and 2 mil on the outside. So that may not be the most suitable way of doing it. What you would probably be better doing is if you press command again or control, if I deselected that, and then if I added another one, so I can add a selection set, and then if I click that, and instead of making it 2, I can now make that, I don't know, 1.5. Does that look about right? I don't know, 1 point something in it. 1.3, 1.4, something like that. So you can put multiple fillets in one go. And if you want different size fillets in one go, to save you previously, early on in Fusion, you did a fillet and then another fillet and then another fillet and then another fillet. And you had to look at the end of your timeline and you had 7,000 fillets. Now, fillets are the biggest thing that will go wrong when you're going backwards and forwards in timelines. Okay, so again, the rule is if you're going to use fillets or chamfer, it should be the last thing you ever do, not early on in building your model. Okay, so that's fillet. Now, there are other fillets, so edit feature. We've got fillet. So if you want to remove a selection set, if you press the X there, that will remove it. So what we can do is we can do a rule fillet. And the rule fillet is it's a bit stupid, this one. It's all edges. Well, I don't really quite know how that's a rule, because a fillet will do all edges anyway. But it does have a pretty funky one here. It says between faces and features. So it will ask you to select the first face, which is this one. And then, unlike most things in Fusion, it doesn't automatically drop down to the next one, because you do have to select face feature number 2, which is that one. And what that will actually do is that will create now a 2 mil radius, fillet, sorry, between those two faces. So that's rule fillet. The other one is, I'll just get rid of that one, is a full round fillet. I didn't even know this existed, but I think this is one that I will use. The raw fillet, it doesn't really suit me, but the full round fillet, I think, is actually a good idea. So what is a full round fillet? So if we go up to there for fillet, and then when we hover over something, what it says is select edges, faces, or features to fillet. So if we go down there for a full round fillet, it now says select center faces. So if we hover, and this is where it does get a little bit confusing. I'll get it myself now. So if you click that one, and then it asks you to select the center of the faces. And what that's done is that's created it with a weird circle just on that one side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up another model, which is this one, just to make it explain it a little bit more easy. If you wanted to put a full round fillet on there, and this is, if we go future in time and we start talking about moving backwards and forwards in time and changing parameters, one of the problems with creating a fillet, and which is what I've always done, and it's always caught me out, but now I know this one, this is actually quite clever. If you create a fillet and it's a full round fillet, if you select it between two faces, now I know it's hard to see, but it's selected the front face and the back face, and I'm now about to select the third face, which is in the middle. It will create a full round fillet. Now, why is this very interesting to me? Is that if I created a fillet the other way, which I have done in the past, so if I've done a fillet, what I've done before is that one and then that one. And then what I've done is I've made that, say, 2 mil. And that creates a full round fillet if you like. But then if I go back in time and I make this body 3 millimeters thick, that fillet won't be a full round. But if you do a full round fillet and you make that body fatter, it will always make it as a full round. So for the time travel aspect, that's pretty good. Now, like I said, it does get a bit confusing when you have crazy bodies, which is this thing. Because then when you do a fillet, full round fillet, you've got to kind of start selecting. We select that one, it will do those two sides. Now, if you select, let's say there, it will just do those two sides. So the full round fillet, I think, works very well on a single square body. But I think once you start getting these really complex shapes, it starts to get a bit confusing. But you do have this option here where you can select the faces. So if you wanted, say, that face and that face, oops, this is again where it catches me out every time. Side 2, which is that one, that will now do that part just there. So I think full round fillet on a single body, good. Full round fillet on something complex like this, possibly not. Okay. So when we had fillet, which is this one, full round and then fillet, it asks you where you can select a line. So you can select a line, which is that one. And if we do that 2 mil, that will create a line all the way around. You can also select faces. So if we just delete that and we just click that face and we do that 2 mil, that will do the entire face. So every edge on that face, it will create a fillet. And the final one that you have is to select the actual body. Now, what I'm going to do is work out what body that one is. That's the 4th one in. So if I create a fillet, I just keep coming back as that one, not to worry. And if I select the 4th one in and then do that as 2 mil, Okay, that will do the entire body or that whole feature. I can't really say it's a body. That was an extrude, which is a feature, and that's created a fillet on the entire thing. Now, one of the things on that, if we deselect that and we go back to selecting that line and we make that 2 mil. Now, even though I only selected one line, it has gone all the way around the corner. And that's because we have tangent chain selected. So if I deselect that, again, as I explained on another feature, it doesn't automatically deselect the tangent chain. So I actually have to delete that, make sure tangent chain is not clicked, and then I can select that line, let's say that line, and say that line, and make them 2 mil. And what that's done is that's not included the corners, and it's not gone round this side as well. That's because I deselected the tangent chain. So when we do fillet, let's say we select that line and we do that as 2 mil and we hit return. We have the next button, which is a thing called tangency weight. Now, tangency weight, at the moment, this goes to a very straight line, then goes into the curve, and then goes straight into the straight line. Now, if I make that 2, what it has done is it has made the lead off from the straight slower until it comes into the curve. Now, that has the opposite effect. If you do 0.5, it will do a very sharp fillet. So it will go from straight very quickly, then into the fillet. Okay. So I edit that one again. So if I deselect that and if I select the feature, I don't know, oh, let's come out of that again. Find out what one that is. So that's the last one. Okay. So if I edit that feature, if you remember that I can select a feature, which is that one. So if I deselect that, then select that. No, it's not that one. That one. And then if I do 2 mil as a fillet, the other thing that we have is the way it deals with the corners. So at the moment, you see this corner is set back. You also have rolling ball. Now, rolling ball will literally just make it where it will stop. Whereas the setback will kind of smooth the corners off much more gently. So chord length. Now, if I have a shape like this and I do a fillet on that point there, and if I do that again at 2 mil, let's do it a bit fatter than that. Let's do it 5 mil just so you can notice it. And then we do OK. Now, one of the problems that we've got is that it's smaller at the bottom here than it is at the top. Okay, it tapers off. Now, if you didn't want that, there is a way of getting over that. So if we edit that feature, at the moment the radius type is constant. So if we do chord length and we now make that 5 mil, what we now have is that is a continuous radius, even though it's sloping downwards. And then one more. This normally goes Pete Tong, by the way, this one. So if I have say a weird shape like this, so this is kind of tapered in and does sort of weird things there. So if I do a fillet on this one, make sure that's constant. If I select that one and I do 5 mil, sorry, oh no, maybe not that much. Let's do 3 mil. So we do 3 mil. Now, rolling ball. Now that's a constant radius on this here. But if we did variable, you'll notice it has a start and an end. So it starts at 3 mil and it ends at 3 mil. But we could start that at 1 mil and we could end it at 3 mil. And that way it varies from that point up to there as a different variation as it goes along. Now, the other thing that you can do with this is you can add points. So if we add a point, as you come along this line, it will automatically snap to centers or ends of points. So if I wanted to put another point in there, it's gone green. I can put it anywhere along this line, it doesn't matter, but it snaps to green at kind of set points. So if I wanted to add a point there, and let's say add a point there, I could go 1 mil, 1 mil, 2 mil, 3 mil. It's a bit weird, but you know, it's demonstrating something. So what that's actually enabled me to do is create a variable fillet at set points, just in case you wanted to do that. And there you go.